All right, guys, we are live. Camille and Kennerly, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Oh, thanks for having us, Emily. It's been way too long since we chatted, actually.
Oh my gosh, for me, considering you guys good friends, I totally agree with that statement. We had 5 minutes of catch up before I hit the go live button, and that's my biggest takeaway. Why do I not call and catch up with you more? I have no idea.
Well, we'll change that. And thanks for having us on here. Congrats on the new show. I know this is so exciting.
Thanks. And I have to, this is really going to be interesting because I really try to be consistent on LinkedIn and add value to it. And for you, first of all, I don't even know if I can do an introduction as to really set the stage with how big of a deal you guys are. Over 100 million views on YouTube. Like, you travel the world, you perform for sold out stadiums in South America. Like, you've been on The Walking Dead. You're like the smartest, talented, girls I know. And so tell me what I should say as far as an introduction to LinkedIn audience where maybe this is some folks' first time even hearing of the Harp twins. How should I justify a better introduction?
Oh my goodness. Well, that was so sweet. So thank you. I guess if we're going to introduce ourselves, we would say that we are identical twin harpists. We play acoustic harp, electric harp, a lot of different genres. Yeah, everything from rock and metal to soundtrack, our own originals, which are kind of Nordic, Celtic inspired. We record and tour full time and have a blast doing so. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that was
and 1,000 layers deeper than that, but it would take up the entire show. But when I tell my audience that you guys perform private shows for the coolest of the coolest people out there that you have really strict NDAs with, to just caring about the community and giving back and putting on shows from small venues to large venues and everything in between, like you guys are amazing. So
thanks, Emily.
Before I go into that, because I have a couple of things I want to get to, I always offer my guest a drink. So Camille, Kennerly, what can I get you to drink?
Okay, so I think we're going to go with the sweet tea because we have never had we've never had traditional Southern sweet tea ever. For all that we thinking about it, I was like, is it like a
do you like sugar?
Yes.
Well, it's like drinking sugar. You're gonna love it.
Sign us up. Is there one standard for sweet tea, or are there different types of sweet teas?
I'm not a tea sweet snob.
Okay.
There's this place that I would love to take you next time you're coming to Utah, which we've got to get you back to Utah.
Yes.
2024, Camille Kennerly, the Harp Twins, needs to book a venue in Utah.
Yes.
And I'm saying that selfishly. I'm putting it out in the world because that's when I get to take these girls to dinner. And there's a place up north, Plate at Dreams. It's just as cute can be. And they do fresh sweet tea, and it's warm, and they serve it over cold ice in mason jars. But I'm not a snob. Sometimes when I'm not calorie counting, I will just go to McDonald's and I will get a sweet tea and drive around for 30 minutes, and it's totally good.
Now, is the McDonald's sweet tea in the north the same as it is in the south, or is it different?
I think it's pretty standardized.
Thank you.
That is what a friend and a sister should always do. It's pretty standardized. It's just sugar on sugar.
Okay. Okay. We were at a grocery store somewhere in the South, and I remember the person, this was a couple of years back, but the person in front of us had just a million containers of sugar on the conveyor belt in front of us. Excuse me, do you mind if we ask you a question? And we're like, what are you doing with all the sugar? And she was like, oh, I'm making sweet tea. And we're like, how many? It was quite a lot of sugar.
Sure. Well, you'll get sent some sweet tea after this. But the thing we have to jump into, because is you guys, like me, we like classic rock and metal. And I think when I go to my metal concerts and see Ivan Moody on stage throwing down at Five Finger Death Punch, sometimes I don't blend into the audience, and that's okay, because it's a community, it's a family, and they They're like the least judgmental folks. And I can say that because I feel like I have become a part of that community. But you guys are a classic trained harp, and you can't go to a store and buy a sheet of music to play Metallica songs, which are some of your most popular viewed videos. So give some context. How did you guys become metalheads? How in the world do you put it on a harp? Like, break this down for us.
By the way, first, okay. I want to say, first of all, before we go into that, for anyone who might be watching that doesn't know Emily personally, like she goes to way more cool concerts than anyone I've ever seen in my life. Like she'll like send us a text and be like, "Here I am," you know, backstage at Metallica, no big. But yeah, they're the most amazing concerts. But yeah, we grew up listening to a lot of classic rock. Our mom listened to a lot of classic rock, and our musical tastes have always been really varied. We have been in classical music, that kind of world, when we were younger, and we have degrees in harp performance. So all the way through university. But you know, since we grew up listening to so much like classic rock and metal, you know, we have people come up to us and they're like, how do you, like, aren't you too young to listen to this music? Which is probably what you get too. And it's like, well, you know, you're not too young ever to listen to great music. Yeah, and that music has lasted so long because it's so fantastic. Yeah, and for us, we were trained classically, and in that world, you read what is on the paper in front of you, and you have to play it exactly how it is written. You know, all these little details, which is great. You know, we got all these skills, and we appreciate that. But what we really wanted to do was to just branch out and not play the same music the harpists have been playing for centuries. So we started to kind of look around to see if there were, you know, the arrangements of like rock and metal and everything. We couldn't find anything, so we just started teaching ourselves. And at that time, you know, when we first started doing this, no one else was doing anything like it, and so it was kind of trying to figure out how to forge that path on our own. Yeah, and then, you know, we started uploading videos to YouTube like over 10 years ago because we would tell people, oh, we play rock and metal on harps, and they'd be like, well, that sounds terrible. So we have to show it to people, like what it actually sounds like, what we actually do with the music, for them to get like, oh, that works. So yeah.
Well, and not only did you have to make it happen because no one had ever done this before, right? You had to like write your own music. You had to decide which harp you were going to do it on. By the way, for those watching, there are electric harps, and Camille and Kennerly play the electric harp, which is rad within itself. Sometimes they have what's the classic harp that just stands.
They're called concert grand harps.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll put one harp between both of them and each play different chords, and then they can dance around it and switch positions. It's the craziest thing ever. Like, I really hope people go and watch your videos. And I was going to show one, but in 20 minutes, and we all know I'm going to go longer than 20 minutes. But my point is that not only did you have to make this happen, right? Like, you had to write the music, you had to find the harps, you had to find the position, you had to find how to work with each other on this. You kind of have people telling you like, no, this isn't a thing. Like, even the harp community itself, which I think would bring more interest to an instrument, they kind of push back. Is that true? Can you give me some context on that?
We had pushback in our own world, as far as especially when we were in school at our university. We had some professors that were really not so keen on the whole harp rock type of thing. I think in some ways, sometimes the classical world can be a little closed off, and I think, quite frankly, it's getting a little bit better about, you know, opening up and broadening on where you are in that world. And for us, you know, after we graduated, we got our degrees. To be honest, we kind of left that world behind a little bit and just decided to forge out into the general population, instead of being inward focused toward the harp world, say, and be like, okay, we're going to convince these people that what we're doing is cool. We just like, well, let's go find the people who enjoy our music. Yeah, you know, the Emily Rushtons, who, you know, maybe no one would think likes metal but loves metal. You know, and likes seeing something else different. And quite frankly, that's how an instrument can really expand its kind of reach out there. Because if you're just focused on other people who play the harp, like, there's so many other people out there who might want to pick up like a Celtic harp harp, or they might want to listen. To be honest, so many people think that they are going to not like the harp, at least not in a way that they're going to actively listen to it. It's a little stereotypes, like, okay, it's tea rooms and weddings and orchestras, but to be honest, it's kind of like stereotyping metal fans. Like if you thought in your head, what is a metal fan? You might not come up with your image. And it's the same thing with the harp. If you say, hey, what kind of music is played on a harp? It would probably be very different for most people than what we do with it. Yeah, so it's funny because, we were playing this past weekend out in Colorado, and, we just did asking the audience, like, okay, who is this, like their first Harp Twins concert, a lot of hands, and they were like, all right, who was forced to be here? And there were a few hands, and, but it's so funny because like people just don't expect to like it. And then they come to our concert and they're like, oh my gosh, this was great. So it's kind of fun. We get to win people over.
Yeah. Speaking of concerts, I was at Pantera last week, and I'm sorry I didn't send you a video. I should have, but Chad was, he's on stage, lead singer, and he kind of has come out with, his theme of this tour is kind of all about therapy. And I think that helped me kind of put my finger on the pulse as to why I've been attracted to metal. I don't go to a therapist. I'm all for it. I think mental health first and foremost. But to me, like, I just feel better sometimes after those concerts and letting loose and pretending no one's watching and just kind of like, just getting some emotion out in a healthy way. And I don't know. I'm making it sound like I'm way more of a metalhead than I am, but it just feels good. And I think anytime you can be open-minded to situations, only good things is going to come of it, which brings me to my next point. You guys dedicated a song to a professor of yours that really kind of gave you some pushback. You want to tell us what song you dedicated?
During our live shows, not all of them because we switch on our set list, but we play a version of an AC/DC song, and we had a professor in our university who not our harp professor. Our harp professor was amazing. I do want to say that she was fantastic, but this was another music professor at the conservatory, and she told us that what we wanted to do with the harp and the way that we wanted to play it was not going to be successful for us. And they're like, she told us we were naive to think that we could make a living doing the type of music we wanted to. Yeah, which is ironic because that's what we're doing now. So the song is "Highway to Hell" by. And, it's a fun. We tell the story and then we dedicate the song to that professor.
But I was hooked when y'all did that. That was my first concert. You made that dedication, and you did that pretty early on. And I was like, I am so glad I am here. Like, not only are you highly intelligent and very talented, you guys are hella determined. You guys, like, you're so determined to make things happen, and that's kind of what the message that I think is going to resonate really well to LinkedIn, which I know you're not on LinkedIn, but maybe one day you'll get on. And if you choose, come on over to the LinkedIn side. Determination, like hard work, half the brains is, can get you a long ways. Like, you guys are going places.
Thank you. We're independent musicians. And so if we're not working to make ourselves successful, no one else is working to make us successful. We don't have like this huge team of people that is, working in the background, like, kind of some of the big artists do. So it's like one of those things where you kind of have to be like A-type personality. Yeah, you have to keep pushing forward with what you want and what you want to create, because no one's going to tell you what to do. You have to decide yourself where you want to be, where you want to go. So backing up a second, I had a quick question for you, Emily. Okay, so you mentioned that like metal concerts are therapeutic for you. So do you have one like metal band or concert that you can think of that was like the most metal therapeutic concert for you?
Sure. So it was a couple of years ago. It's probably more than a couple of years ago, because it was before I had Jack. So at least 5 or 6 years ago. My husband rounded up me and some friends and family, and we went down to Denver for the Elevation. It was kind of an elevated festival. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I ever rode the rail. So for those of y'all that don't know that, you go down in the pit and you are the first person, like you're literally riding the rail, right? Because people are pushing up against you, and there's like mosh pits behind you, and then there's body surfing.
That is brave.
It was so much energy. And Volbeat was there, and Michael Polson surfed the audience, and I like got to help, put him over back into security, and like it was so much fun. I won't ever do it again, because like you're standing for 6-7 hours picking people up off of the ground and getting shoved into a metal bar. But you want to talk about an adrenaline rush. Like that was an incredible moment for me.
I was gonna say, now we just need to convince insurance companies to buy you a ticket to metal concerts for your mental
health.
Yeah, mental health.
Well, I'm very committed to PCF insurance, and so I got the hookup when it comes to insurance. I always promote them a ton because they're my largest client. I'm dear friends with their leadership, and they're always like, "Why do you like metal?" Except for the CFO. The CFO and I, sometimes we even, we can talk about these things because he's also a metalhead.
Very nice. Well, that's perfect.
I know, right? So I'm going to go back to you. Thank you for that question. You guys, I like you so much. Thank you for that. Determination, highly intelligent, creative. But I think your special sauce that I've seen in action when I've gone to your concerts is your ability to form a connection. And you want to talk about like where loyalty is formed, and people that will travel like multi-states, because there's always people not just in state, like they will travel days, hours, miss flights. They do crazy things to get to your concert to see you. Like you have the loyal fan base.
Aww.
It's because you build a very meaningful connection. How do you do that with so many fans?
Oh, I think live shows, I mean, there's something to be said for running back to people online, but when you get to see people at live shows, there's something really special about it.
You have with that live connection with an audience where it's like, okay, you're giving energy, you're getting energy, and it's kind of like this awesome exchange. It really can't be replaced. And quite frankly, like the time over COVID when touring kind of ended, like once we went back to touring, we're like, oh man, it's so nice to see people's faces out in the audience again.
Yeah, and just be able to connect with people in that way. I think a lot of people are very surprised by our live shows because they're quite different from our music videos online.
Because obviously in our videos, like in music videos, you don't talk or anything.
And we actually have a lot of stories and humor and comedy and stuff mixed in with our live shows. And a lot of people don't expect that. So that's a fun thing too, is you get to connect with people. We're very, we make fun of ourselves a lot. We just don't take ourselves.
We love self-deprecating humor.
Yeah. And so I think it helps the audience to, when you're comfortable with the audience, then that's when you give them permission to be comfortable as well.
We also always do free meet and greets, so we get a chance to like actually talk with people after the shows, and sometimes even before the show.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to connect with people and
a one-on-one, type of basis.
And sometimes it can be a little exhausting because like if you're talking to so many people, it like really drains you, but in the best possible way.
For sure.
Well, you just gave the secret to someone that is been in a job for the last 10 years. Maybe they were unexpectedly let go and they're having to be brave and go out there and do interviews, right? Like you just gave them the secret sauce. Meaningful connections. Like when you give energy, you get energy. And when you bring a level of being sincere and vulnerability, and even in awkward situations, humor, right? Like those are all things that really apply in an interview setting fantastically well. Like it's such a translation.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I think you very easily could charge people for like a VIP meet and greet before the show, or just do that exclusively after the show. But like, it is very important to you to have meaningful connections with your fans. I have waited because we were supposed to go out to dinner after your last show. You had like 200 people in line. And I mean, it was hours that we waited. There was no restaurant open. We ended up doing like a gift basket at your hotel with chocolate in it, which is totally cool. But that's how important it is to you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. After most shows, it can definitely be hours long,
but it's worth it. And quite frankly, I think one of the most important things is like, is not, I think sometimes artists even when they get a little bit of success, they kind of like hold themselves to like a really high, like, oh, I'm so important, and they they get a little, large headed maybe.
Not everyone, but I think it's easier than people think to.
But it's like, we as the artists, it's like we're no different than the people that are in the audience.
And
like
if we want to be able to give that back as much as possible.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to meet us, we will be there to meet them.
Yeah,
and until the venue kicks us out.
And that way, it also gives us the opportunity to meet people who wouldn't necessarily have the funds to buy the expensive meet and greet that they have to pay for some artists. And that way we can meet families and we can meet the kids and maybe the people who don't have that disposable income. And it's worth it for us.
They mean just as much to us.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you guys are very accessible for how much you travel. The people that who you perform for privately, frequently, we won't name drops, but you're a big deal, not just here in the States. Like, you're a big deal to the music community worldwide. Like, honored for my friendship with you. And because we are at the 20-minute mark, I'm over here browsing some comments, and believe it or not, we have one about freaking cowbell.
No.
Can you believe it?
I wish I had my cowbell accessible. I would have given
the cowbell may meet an untimely demise.
No, guys, we're at the 20-minute mark. I could have easily gone an hour long with you, but welcome to LinkedIn. Thanks for being my guest, and I can't wait to see you guys in person. So let's get you booked in Utah 2024. Any venue out there that needs something like Harp Twins, they're going to bring a ton of people out because people adore them, especially me. So thanks for being here today.
Utah's a way to get back.
It's one of our favorite places.
We always have the most amazing audiences there. So,
well, and I get to see you.
Yes, we get to see you.
All right, I'll let you guys get back on the road. It was good seeing you. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Emily.
Bye, ladies. Have a good one.
You too.
All right.